Good evening, everyone. I'm Harriet Clardy Davis. I am owner and founder of ML Clardy Law LLC, a mental health centered legal services firm based in Georgia. And our mission is to really give caregivers clarity on their present and legally empowering solutions on their future. We work in the spaces of psychiatric treatment representation, ADA employment and accommodations planning, and incapacity and estate planning for both caregivers and individuals. We also offer a variety of educational and training opportunities within the mental health space, including facilities, nonprofit organizations, corporations, etc. So today I would like to speak to everyone about 3 common, what I call myths or misconceptions. I often have a hard time saying that word, but 3 common myths or misconceptions surrounding mental health services that I often encounter with working with caregivers and working with individuals who have a lived diagnosis such as myself. The first one is a feeling of being alone in the journey and the battle. Number 2 is, sorry, it's my dog. Number 2 is the role of an attorney, what a role of a mental health attorney is and what it is not. And finally, the thing that I often get, especially during panic phone calls, which is that mental hospitals are out to get my loved one. So let's really attack the first one first, which is that you are in this alone. I think I brought this up during the last video on caregivers' struggles, but as a caregiver and as an individual who has a mental illness diagnosis, one of the common frustrations that I often hear is that they feel alone. And what I mean by that is many caregivers and individuals are often going through this journey in secrecy and private and don't really use their support systems, really due to a lot of things, but I think the main thing is the stigma surrounding mental health. So often when there are challenges or when they run into obstacles, they don't know who to call, they don't know who to reach out to because they really haven't let a lot of people into their mental health struggles. Often I find that individuals and caregivers have a very sharply focused community in which they actually confide in and gather resources to help either themselves or their loved ones because of that battle. So the first myth is that you're in this alone, and that is truly not the case. There are so many people that are out here that are willing and ready and able to help. My law firm is one of them. There are peer support resources, medical resources, spiritual resources, other caregiver support groups. There are a lot of resources. I know a big challenge is being able to locate them in your time of need, but I assure you that they are available. I would really encourage you, if you fall into this category, to seek those resources out. I know part of my firm specifically, when we work with caregivers, one of the things that I do like to do personally is connect them to resources outside of legal, whether there are support groups, peer services, and other services, because a legal service is only one part of the entire spectrum of some of the challenges that they're going through when they call me. The second is the role of an attorney. So often many caregivers and individuals see the role of an attorney, which is different than the reality. Yes, in some industries, the role of an attorney is to go to court. It is to litigate, do long depositions, trials with a jury. The reality in the mental health space, especially in psychiatric treatment representation, is far more, if that's what you like, boring. And I am the first person to say that in that space, you would want it to be boring for the key reason that litigation takes money. Going to hearings take money. It is a very expensive endeavor. So the true role of an attorney in this space is really to do what they can to avoid litigation, but at the same time advocate for the patient and the caregiver. The number one ultimate goal of all parties involved should be the ability to work for the betterment of the individual. whatever that looks like. If that looks like going to a hearing, then yes. But if it looks like other less expensive and in many cases more effective things, then I really advocate for that. So the three basic skills that an attorney should have in this area are the ability to facilitate communication, which is often the number one breakdown that I often see. Number two, the ability to negotiate. And then number three, finally, the ability to advocate. And all of that should be surrounded by the ability to connect with all parties, whether it's the caregiver, the individual, or the treatment facility. So one of the myths today that I would like to make sure that I break is that an attorney's role is litigious or confrontational. Yes, that could be part of it, especially with the advocacy, but another less heard of role, and I think extremely important, especially in this space, is the ability to have a party that truly understands all avenues, that truly understands all angles, understands the legal, understands the individual, the caregiver, and the facility's role in the space, and works for the betterment of the individual and really for the community at large, if you really think about it. The last thing is, let me see if I remember. Okay, the first one was the role of, is that you are not in it alone. The second one is the role of the attorney. And then the third is something that I often hear when I get calls, which is the panic that a loved one's rights are being trampled on by a psychiatric treatment facility. So a caregiver will often call and in a state of panic, and generally they call when an individual has shortly or within a couple of days been admitted to an evaluating facility for mental health treatment. And there is often a panic surrounding what happens next. The individual has been asked to sign maybe forms and been given a lot of information that they may not understand. Individuals are frightened and scared, and therefore their caregivers are equally so. So there is a feeling when caregivers call that the hospital is out to get their loved one. And I have mixed feelings about this. I feel like from the stance of a business owner, the hospital's main goal is to provide a service. It is to provide a service and really generate revenue. That is the role of a business. Equally so, there are individuals there that are within the business that their role is to also provide services in the betterment of the company. Now, the challenge is that a business is not sustainable in that case without its people who work in it. And people are a mix of past experiences, they're a mix of skills, they're a mix of biases, and they may be a mix of good intentions or bad, depending on the person. So the challenge often comes in where you have a facility that is made up of individuals, and those individuals, the family feels like are not working in the best interest of the caregiver. So in some cases, and really in a lot of cases, what I have seen is a breakdown in communication between all parties. So I am not saying that the caregivers are right, and I'm not saying that the facility is right, but what I often see is that the facility, the caregivers, and the individuals are all three parties with three perspectives on what needs to work to move forward. And often there are holes and big breakdowns in communications that when I come in are clear to me, but to all three of the other parties, it just may look like that they are either out to get the individual, or in the case of the facility, that the facility is trying to do everything that they can, but they are being blocked by the caregivers, by the individuals to provide care. So one misconception that I generally will see is this complete and utter breakdown in communication. And when the breakdown occurs, what often happens is legal rights are in question because there is not a clear dialogue between the parties. So one of the things that I always recommend, especially if someone is going to do it DIY without an attorney, is the first skill set that you need to have as a caregiver, as an advocate, is the ability to be able to facilitate proper, clear, and transparent communication, no matter what side you're on. That makes everything better. So, knowing those three things, I would always invite anyone who has any additional questions, comments, or any myths or misconceptions that they have come across in this space to please share them in the comments. I am also available if you are an individual loved one or a community advocate and you would like more information on my legal services, speaking or training. I would invite you to book a discovery call, and I would love to hop on the phone with you, learn about what your challenges are and your goals, and see whether we are a good fit or I can refer you to other resources. So I want to thank everyone for joining me today, whether it's live or on the replay, and I hope that you have a fantastic day. Thank you so much.